Hi, this is the video to give you step-by-step instructions on how to complete the inflation lookup case. So this is a training case mostly focused on how to complete a VLOOKUP. But also gives you some of the basic ideas of what you should do when you're working on a case. The first thing, when you open up Excel files, you might get this protected view, enable editing. So you have to click this before you can start working on any of these files. And when you enable editing, you'll be able to start working on the file. So down here I can stretch, I'm going to stretch this to be the full size. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. Okay. Now, I have a note here about work together efficiently, get more done, open Teams now. So this is just advertisement. I'm going to close that. All right. So here, this is the file. So first we have the memo. So the memo here is telling me complete each column for the price increase worksheet. And this is the price increases here. And I'm going to just modify that a bit. So, okay. And wrap text, resize rows, set print ranges, freeze. So I see that one thing you can do in Excel, it would be good practice to go review and then spell check. And I see that freeze is spelled wrong, so I'm going to correct that. Go back to home, and I'm just going to save this file. Okay. Now, so these are the basic instructions, and learn how to use VLOOKUP. So let's go to the price increase worksheet here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is we see here that we're missing a lot of real estate. There's a lot of columns down here that we're not viewing. So I'm going to start out by selecting the first row, and I'm going to resize them. Let's make them smaller. But I'm going to actually highlight the whole sheet, and I'm going to resize by clicking in between the A and the B. I can resize all of the columns. Now you see here, now the columns have been resized, you can't read what's the titles in the columns. So if I select this row and click on wrap text, now it's going to wrap the text so that way you can view the whole text. And there's a couple here. I'm going to open up a little more. Okay, I think the other one's good. Maybe I'll open this a little bit here. Actually, break up wholesale. That looks a little bit better. Okay, so now everything is viewable. Here's another one. Wholesale can be 1 or 2 words. I'm just going to break it up so it just looks a little bit better. Okay. Now, I'm going to also click on this, and I'm going to go to, actually I don't have to click on that. I'm just going to go to you can go to view, freeze panes, freeze top row. So now this top row, no matter where I scroll, will always be on top, so I can always see what's happening here. These are retail sales, so I'm going to switch these to currency. This is going to be costs, which I can switch that to currency, and cost, profits. And let me switch that to currency just to kind of format this spreadsheet. Okay. Now, I want to set a print range. So I'm going to highlight, I'm going to hit the Shift N key to get to the bottom, and I'm just going to hit the page over key to highlight the whole area, and then I'm going to go to page layout and set print area. But I don't just need to set the print area, I need to also do the page setup. After the print area is set, I'm going to go to page setup, and then I'm going to do landscape, because this is a lot of columns. So if you have a lot of columns going across, landscape will make more of it fit. I'm going to shrink the size of it to say 80%. I'm going to go to the margins. I'm going to shrink the right and left margin and the top and bottom margin just to make it more stuff fit on the page. Header and footer. For the header, I usually like to put the name of the case, and for the footer, I usually like to put the, we could say the page number. And then you go to the sheet. Rows to repeat at the top. So I want to always have, if I have a title row, I want that to repeat at the top. The rest of this I can leave, and I'm just going to do print preview and let's see, scroll all the way down. Okay, it looks good. It's actually, the preview is coming back a little weird, but I think that's just the way because of the size. But the print preview is a good way to just double check that it's not a huge amount of pages, that everything's fitting on the page. So, okay. What else do we have here? Wrap text, resize row, set period, format data. Okay, so now we can work on the, so this is pretty much in good shape now. Now I'm going to work on the spreadsheet. Okay, so let's go back here to column A. And I'm going to make this bigger. I'm going to increase the size of the scale. There's a little scale down here I can increase. Just make it bigger so it's viewable for you. Okay, so column A is material. Column B is the unit sales, the number of units that were sold. Column C is the old retail price. So this is the retail price from last year. And basically the theme here is we are going to reevaluate the sales prices, both retail and wholesale, for next year based on inflation. So there's been inflation, and we're going to check on that. Now also, what we're going to do is we're going to try to come up with a strategy to deal with inflation, or see how inflation is going to impact our profits. So remember, when a manufacturing company will make a product, and when they sell it to wholesalers, that's the wholesale price. Then the wholesalers will sell it to retailers, and that's the retail price. So for any particular product, say you're a company that does all three. You're the wholesale, the retailer, and the manufacturer, like an Apple. So at the Apple store, there's a price the Apple store charges. Now there's a price that Apple will charge the retail store to buy the products from Apple before they sell it to you. Now, it doesn't have to be an Apple store, it could be Best Buy. Best Buy might buy the wholesale price, and then they're going to sell to you at the retail price, and the difference is the profit that Best Buy makes. Now, the cost of the product that Apple puts together, and then when they sell it to they sell it at the wholesale price, the difference between the wholesale price and the cost is the company that Apple manufacturing will make. So there are two price levels, a wholesale and a retail price. As an individual person, we are paying the retail prices. Businesses pay wholesale prices to stock products and then sell them at a markup at retail. Some businesses are vertically integrated and they do both the retail and the wholesale. Okay. Now, also, I forgot to mention before, when you have a lot of text, it does make sense to go to spell check, and you see that retail is spelled wrong here. VLOOKUP. This is okay. VLOOKUP just should be all caps. I can change that. Okay, so now I just updated and cleaned up the spelling. Just forgot to do that before. Okay, first column D. I left a note here. This red triangle means that there's a note, and it says unit sales times old retail price. And that's column B times column C, which is the little formula here. So I'm going to hit, I'm going to do equals or plus the starter formula. I'm going to take B multiplied by C. Now, because any number over $100, we don't need change. I'm going to take away the change and resize the column. And then I'm going to double click this down to drop this all the way to the bottom. So if I use the N key, go to the bottom, you see that at the very bottom there's these hashtags. That means the column is too small. So I'm going to open this up. And you'll see at the bottom there's some big sales dollars here. So let me move back up. The N key, up arrow. Okay, I'm at the top again. Okay, so column E, we already have this information, which is the wholesale price, which looks like we're doing column C times 1 minus the retail discount. So basically the wholesale is 75% of the retail price. There's a 25% discount. So that formula is already in there for us. So we can move column F, sales units, old wholesale, sales units times old wholesale price, or B times E. So B times E, and we get the old wholesale sales. So this is the sales at the wholesale price. Okay, now we're going to go, this is already a fact. We don't have to change anything here. We're going to do the old wholesale. Let's move this over a bit. Now I have this comment, but I can't see the whole comment. So I'm going to go to Edit, Note, and I'm just going to drag it down a bit so it's bigger. And I'm going to go back to this page. And here now we see the whole note. And it says, use VLOOKUP to import old cost from the new cost tab. Okay, so the new cost tab is here. And this again has a formatting issue. So I'm going to go here. This should be in currency. And oh, this should be in currency too. But first, let me wrap the text here. I'm going to center this text. I'm going to put some numbers around it. I'm going to also get rid of this horrible color. Maybe I'll just put a color in the title. Then I'm going to resize the rows, so like we did in the first page. All right. And I can copy this format, hit this paintbrush, we'll do a copy formatter over here. Okay, now we're all cleaned up. So here is the data. So go back here. So I'm going to start with insert function, which you can do from here, or formulas insert function. Both are the same, fx. And it opens up a list. So I can type in here VLOOKUP, but VLOOKUP's the top of my list already, and I have this function argument box I'm going to work with. So the first thing is the lookup value. So the lookup value is going to be the entire column A. So I'm just going to click on column A. The table array comes from the new costs. So I'm going to highlight columns A, B, and C. So it's new cost. This tells you the worksheet and the columns. And I want column 2. So A, B, 1, 2, 3. So I want column 2. Here, and I'm going to type in false. And if you want to know the logic for false, just means it needs an exact match. So I'm going to hit OK. And sometimes you might get this spillover warning. Just hit OK. And you'll see that 130 is coming back on both sides. And if I take this down and double click, when the white plus turns to black plus, I can double click and bring this all the way down. Now you see we have 900, 963, 964. Over here we have 900, 960, 963. So you notice here that the columns are not equal. So that's why you can't just copy the entire column and bring it over to this worksheet, because we're missing some of the numbers. So it's not 100% lined up. So that's why we have to use a VLOOKUP to combine the information. Okay, because if you see here, we have, it's only 1,100 products we're using here. On the cost sheet here, there's 1,467 products, and this is why you can't just bring copy the whole column over. You have to do a VLOOKUP. So let's go to the next one is the sales units times the old wholesale cost. Okay, so you can hit plus or equals to start a formula. So sales units times the old wholesale cost, and this becomes the total old wholesale. Double click this down. So this is, remember, this is per unit and this is total. So let's move over a couple of rows. So the old wholesale gross margin percent is already established. Here's the formula. So it's 77%. And what we're doing here is we're looking at E, which is old wholesale price, minus H, old wholesale cost, divided by E. So that is the correct formula to calculate a gross margin. So now we want the new wholesale price. So we have to do another VLOOKUP for the new wholesale price per unit. So we're going to do, again, we're going to go into the VLOOKUP. And now remember, if you don't have VLOOKUP in your list, you can search for it here and it will pop up. So now the lookup value is going to be, again, column A. The table array will also be column A, B, and C, just like last time. And the column index will be 3, because we're looking in column C, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to type in false. Okay. And you can see it's bringing actually a value here. So you can actually gives you an answer ahead of time. So I'm going to hit OK. So now I have that 172. I'm going to double click that down. Moving to the next column. Sales units times new wholesale cost. So here there's no formula, but you can work with the titles. So sales units times new wholesale cost. So we have new wholesale cost here. So we're just going to create a formula. Sales units times new wholesale cost. So if there isn't any columns here, formula listed, you can still figure it out from the titles of the column. Okay, now here we have the new wholesale gross margin, and we're working on, it's a similar formula as this one, but here we used H, and now we're using column K, and we could see that because the wholesale cost increased, the profit margin went from 77 to 69%. I'm going to copy that down. Change in wholesale. So this is calculate the change from the old to the new. So it's here in brackets, old minus new is so, and it's simply just take the old minus the new. So this is the change from the old GM to the new GM. So it's a 7 percentage point change. Copy that down. I would say that this is one way of looking at it. I might rather look at it new minus old. So I'm going to actually, because that makes more sense, because the new is 69, the old is 77, so it went down 7%. So if you find something like that, I'm going to actually change the comment, edit the note, and I'm going to say new minus old as the new formula, because I think that's more correct. Either would be acceptable, of course. Because it really did go down, the change is the negative 7%. It went down 7%. So, all right. Next column. Old wholesale total profits. So it's calculate the profits using the old GM percent. So here's the hint, F3 times J3. So I can do equals or plus to start a formula. F3, this is old, times J3. So this is the old wholesale profit. So it's basically saying, since the profit margin is 70%, so this formula is correct. So this is the old wholesale sales, and 77 cents for every dollar is my profits. So that's why I could use that margin to calculate the old wholesale profits. Now the new wholesale profits would be F times M. So I would use F, which is the let's see, does that make sense? I wanted the new wholesale total profits using, let's open this up. Let's open this column up a little bit. Just want to double check this and make sure it makes sense. Using new cost. So the new wholesale total profits, okay. Okay, so that doesn't make sense. But that does, if you look at the hint, it's making sense because the new wholesale, basically calculating the profits on the new wholesale. So F times M3, so F would be the old wholesale sales times M, which is the new margin. Okay, so since the costs went up, the profits are going down, so that makes sense. And then I have proposed. So I just reworked this title, be a little bit more descriptive. Now, typically we don't have such descriptive titles, but I'm making them descriptive to help you understand what the column is asking for. So here, proposed wholesale price per unit to maintain profit margins. So here's our old profit margins. Is if I go over one, here's our old profit margins, 77%. It's going down to 69%. We want to get it back to 77%. So how I would do this is I would say, I would start the formula and I would take the current cost, the new wholesale cost, and I would divide that by 1 minus the old profit margin. Okay, so this would be the new wholesale price. So let me double check. I'm going to make a column here. Double check. GM, when GM is gross, sorry. Percent. So I'm going to double check the gross margin percent. Now I can click here, Format Painter, to quickly paint this. Same format. And then I'm just going to take the new wholesale proposed price. I'm going to subtract the new cost, and I'm going to divide by the new wholesale price. But I have to put brackets around the first two variables because of the order of operations. And I get 77, make that a percent. Yes, it double checks. So this is the new wholesale price that I would need to get to this value. So I can bring these down. Okay, so what this is basically showing is that, yes, inflation is having an impact on our profits, and it's affecting our, we're going to have to raise our wholesale prices to 772 from 562. Now, the only other thing I would do with this file is you should usually have totals for columns that are total numbers. So this is the old retail price, and this is always a per unit. So when I do the total retail prices, this was the, the units times the price. I'm going to do an auto sum here. And I'm going to highlight, and then I'm going to shift N key down to get the whole column. So now I have the total sales, and I'm going to use the accounting format of the double lines to denote that that's a total. And I'm going to copy this, and anywhere I have a total value, I should insert this. So we have 85 million retail, 56 million wholesale. Costs. Then we have, this is total new wholesale. Profits. So it's all this, all the cells that are totals. The other ones, it doesn't make sense to total anything that's a per unit. And I can even calculate using the same, can I use that? Nope, I'd have to do a new formula here. New wholesale GM, change wholesale. So yeah, so for this particular formula, I would just take wholesale minus costs divided by wholesale. Again, we want these brackets here to give me a percent. So here's the percent. Now this is the total GM percent on the old wholesale. It's a weighted average of all the others, but I have to calculate this based on the totals. So if I do this for the new wholesale costs, again, I'm going to start plus, now I'll put the parentheses in the start. I'm going to pick up our old wholesale value. I'm going to minus our costs and then divide by our old wholesale sales. And this gives me a margin of, so you see that our margin went from 67 to 63. This is sort of an average. So we were losing 3.5 percentage points of our margins based on this inflation. So inflation is basically all essentially, like equal to 3.5% here. And that's why we're going to increase our proposed wholesale price so we can maintain our profit margins and get back to the 67%. Okay, so this total column here, this is just a little extra I threw in the end. This is pretty common standard practice that you should do in your casework. And I'm just doing it here just to kind of add this, even though it wasn't asked on the memo, but maybe I should add that. Okay, so there you go. That's how you finish off this case. And I know that we weren't able to, it's sometimes difficult to complete the whole thing in class. I wanted to have a video backup of this to help you better understand how to complete this inflation case. Okay, thank you for your time, and I hope you found this helpful.